Hey, what's up everybody? Bdf 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so headed toward the Hollywood area, and it's one of those situations where hoping to meet up with my uncle at one of the apartments that I've looked up in the area. I tried to assure that the area that I wanted to hit today, target, was basically all in the same area, so we can just go wham 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 to whatever apartments will be available. Problem is, it's like 10 a.m. and the appointments that they had available in the place I wanted to go to, they are not available until like after 2 o'clock. But there was one place that I tried to contact about potentially going to see them over there in Hollywood, and they allow for an appointment anywhere between, they had like 10:30, 11, 11:30, 12. So I'm like, all right, well, my uncle's coming here at 10, so we can make it to the appointment by 11. So I set us up by 11 o'clock, 11:30 appointment. He calls me at 10 o'clock and says, hey, what's going on? I'm waiting for you to arrive so we can go do our thing. And he was like, all right, well, I still got some stuff going on, so how about you head over to Hollywood and I'll meet you there. And the problem with that is, I set up the appointment for 11:30 because I knew I would be on wheels. The agreement last night was that he'd come pick me up here and then we'd head to where we were going. So that means that puts me on wheels. If I'm going to Hollywood, that's like an hour walk to the train station. So there's a good chance I'm gonna be late for that meeting. The good thing about the meeting though is they never actually sent me a confirmation that they would be available. I set it up and they said they would be contacting me. Look for them to contact you shortly. They have yet to contact me. So we're not technically set up for the 11:30 meeting, which is a good thing, especially if they're not available. The bad thing about that is I'm headed over there with really no appointment to view any buildings. There's one at, well, that's not true. 2:30 they have an appointment at one of the buildings that I set up. And they did send me an email confirmation, so I'm supposed to meet with them at 2:30. But like I said, it's like 10 o'clock right now. So there's a lot of dead space in between now and when we're actually supposed to view an apartment. So I'm just a little thrown off because it really does change everything. I thought I would be able to set up appointments anywhere after 10 o'clock, 10, 11, 12. And these folks talk about 2 o'clock, 2:30 earliest appointment. I'm like, well, what are we gonna do for a couple hours running around in Hollywood? Like, it ain't that much to do in Hollywood to say that we just want to be having dead air time. And then there's some of the other places that I wouldn't mind checking out that I also looked up, but they're in like the Wilshire district. Got some other ones downtown. They're not in the same vicinity to just hit, like, target properly. So I think the struggle is trying to do so much in one day. You know, last night I was looking up apartments and stuff like that and trying to stay in the price range, and they had a lot of listings that I was very interested in, but they weren't actually in the same vicinity. Some of the best ones are in Koreatown, downtown, and so if I wanted to target that area, that would be cool. But if I'm being honest with myself, if I'm gonna move somewhere, I'd rather not move back over the Wilshire area because the train stations over there are a bit limited. You gotta, it's not as simple as walk a couple blocks and you're on a train. They're working on that area right now as it pertains to extending the train line, and so they've had a few of the train stations that are on the purple line that run that way have been out of commission for like 2 months. Now, sure enough, they're about to open that line back up within the next couple of days, so it wouldn't be too relevant to what it is that's ahead. But they still have so many of those lines that they've yet to construct that's going to give you more access to that area. So moving back over there means you're going to be catching a lot of buses, going to be walking for a long time to try to get wherever you want to go. It's just not very it's not very accessible over there right now. as it's likely going to be over the next several years when they finally open them train stations. So I'd rather move to Hollywood. Hollywood is very accessible. You know, anywhere in Hollywood, you're not too far from a train station. And of course, I'm from Hollywood. The weather over there is fantastic. If I'm gonna move anywhere, I would prefer it to be that area right now. But like it's a little nerve-wracking because what I have is a situation where I have someone who's gonna co-sign and pay for the rent, but they're asking me questions about myself. How are your credit? What do you do for a living? Things that likely if I answer honestly, they're gonna be like, nah, go away. But in order to, which makes sense, in order for them to want to give you an opportunity to view the place or tour the place, they kind of want to know you're serious. They want to know you're sane. They want to know you're serious. And it makes all the sense in the world. That's the only way I would do it if I were them. But when you're in my shoes, it's hard to answer them questions. How much are you making? Well, it depends on, it doesn't matter how much I'm making. It matters how much my uncle's making a month. Because it's going to be on his name and his dime. So, do they lend to people like that? I'm going to get, like, I'm not even sure that's a thing. And so a lot of stuff we're trying to cramp into a few days. And the urgency is because he's in town. The urgency is not necessarily because I'm ready to move and need to hurry up and move. So I'm just a little frustrated because this is not necessarily what I want to do. It may be best for me. And I definitely want to get out of this opportunity, this situation that I'm in right now, but not headed into a situation that's going to stress me further or make me rearrange my life to where life is even more complicated to do simple things that I like to do. And so I don't know, I'm just a little unhappy with having to go through this process with so little time. It's not really feasible to try to get an apartment in 24 hours in Los Angeles unless you're a very, very rich person. You know, when you're working with a budget that's like the lower of the budgets, it makes it even more difficult. So like, let's say I'm willing to pay like the top dollar to get an apartment. Let's say if I'm willing to spend anywhere from $3,500 to $6,000 a month. Then that would be a lot easier to get something done in a day because people know, hey, you ready to spend big money. There are more options. There's more higher end stuff that you're willing to pay for. But being on the lower end of the scale, it's like, how serious are you? How much urgency should we have to lend to you? You're a brokey, so we're not interested. Like, it's that type of energy that ultimately comes your way, which is why people in my situation tend to not find anything in this area. And so, I don't know, man. A lot of this just reminded me why I found myself in this situation in the first place, as long as I have. It's because when it's time to look for an apartment, naturally they're gonna want you to have your stuff together. And I don't have my stuff together. If I had my stuff together, I wouldn't be in this situation. If I was the type of person who had their head lined up to be able to get an apartment in one day, I would have never been in this situation in the first place. So it gets to a point where it's like, I understand my uncle has urgency. He's on a mission to get me into a place before moving back home, because this is the best opportunity to do so in person, where he can sign things and tell people this, that, and the third. But he's not here long enough to actually line that stuff up. You know what I mean? To line it up so that we have destinations and stuff like that requires a lot more effort than I'm used to putting into any damn thing these areas in my life. So it's like, you want me to find all these apartments, line up all these appointments, hit all of them, pick one of them, and then move into it. It's like, yo, bro, you're only here for like 5 days. You're here for 4 days, and we only spent 1 day doing this. So I'm at a point where I'm like, yo, it's like I said to you guys, I don't be handling stress very well to begin with. Stuff like this bothers me way more than dangerous situations. Like I told you, I'm wired a certain way. And this, over the last 12 hours, I barely slept last night. Because I'm thinking about how I had to get up early this morning so that I can be ready at 10 o'clock. So I got up at 6. I was actually up at 5:30, but I finally rolled out of bed at 6, did all my praying and all of that. And, even in the dreams where I had even last night in my dream, I was dreaming about not having time to shave my head and stuff. I was already awake in the dream trying to set myself up so that I could be ready for this. And last night I spent some hours, not hours, maybe an hour, looking up apartments, stuff like that. And like I said, I found some good stuff, but it's like you need to be on wheels to be able to hit all of that in a day's time. This is Los Angeles. This is not a small town. If you want to find different places, you got to spread out your appointments throughout the course of a week, so you can spend a section of your time over here on one day, section of your time over there on another day, and then have a handful of places that you've checked out, heard a few no's that you're likely going to hear, to give yourself an opportunity to pick the best place. Because what we're doing right now is essentially going to one place. If they offer it to me, I guess I'm supposed to take it. If I like it, if I don't like, you know what I mean, just to see the mission through. So for me, it's just like, yo, man, I just know my city better than to think that this is a mission that has a high probability of being successful. If you're trying to look for apartments in Los Angeles, you trying to do it overnight is a very, very, very unlikely thing that you're going to pull off. You can try. And like I said, if you got millions of dollars, it's a lot easier for you. But if you're on a regular budget, if you're on a regular person's budget, as is, it's going to be hard for you just off the strength of everybody. You competing with other people who likely have a lot more money to get into any apartment. You know what I mean? So it just becomes a situation where it's like, this was not the greatest mission in this state. Now, if we were in back east somewhere, in Virginia or Philadelphia, something like that, yeah, you probably have a better chance. But in Los Angeles, nah, bro. It's much more difficult to get yourself an apartment overnight and hit everything up and give yourself the best options to choose something that is responsible for you to choose, and then just be lucky enough to have it. Even in smaller towns, it's probably more difficult than what we're pretending like this is. So I'm frustrated, man. I'm not gonna lie. This is the type of thing that makes me unhappy. It's like, yo, bro, I'm not even really unhappy with my living situation. I've been able to manage and cope with this for 2 years. And like I said, I like being around the people I'm in and the people I'm around, the environment I'm in. The urgency for me to move on from this situation, especially into a situation that may not be that great, there is none. There is none. You know, I was talking to my uncle this morning. He was saying a friend of his was suggesting that we look into spaces where people are renting out refurbished garages and look on Reddit for people who are renting out rooms. And like, bro, I don't want to live in none of that. I'm in a better situation now than that. Than to live in some dude's garage. I was like, well, I try to avoid them type of situations because I don't want to live with anybody. And he was saying, well, in these situations, based on this scenario, they wouldn't be living there. They would be renting out the garage to you. I'm like, bro, they would be living in the house. Like, yeah, they'd be renting out the garage, but they live in the house in 9 out of 10 of these situations. And so, I don't know. Is it much different than living in an apartment? Maybe not. But at the end of the day, it becomes a situation where you're still living in somebody's home. If you're living in somebody's refurbished garage, you live in somebody's home. Now, maybe they live back east, maybe they live somewhere else. And in that scenario, it might be more comfortable for me. But the point for me is I'm not up for no shared living, no arrangements like that. And so for me, it's like, if I'm not moving into something better, then the urgency for me to move doesn't exist. If I'm not moving into something that makes me feel more stable than this, I'm not interested in moving. It don't make no sense to me to move into a worse situation just to complete his mission. Like, no. And so that's where I'm at. I'm a bit frustrated with just how this is set up. It's little preparation that is really in place because the urgency ain't there. Now, if I had urgency, if I just needed to get the hell out of here, then I'd just face the stress and be cool with it. But that's not what's actually happening here. I'm not trying to sound ungrateful, though it probably sounds like that. But you know, it's not something that you just find yourself wanting to do. How you doing, brother? All right. find yourself wanting to do kind of what comes naturally to you, which is keep your stress level low, your routine high, and continuing to progress in your stuff that you've been doing that's working for you. And that's all I really want to do right now. But like I said to you guys, if there's something better for me, I'm happy. I'm ready to do it. If there's a better apartment living situation, I'm up for it. Given this, as much as we're paying for this hotel, there's many apartments that are significantly less expensive. Significantly less expensive if you can find them. But trying to find them in a matter of like 24 hours or 48 hours in this city, it's a very, very tall task, man. Just trying to get to everything requires you to be on wheels, and even if you're on wheels, you're still dealing with traffic. It's not something that's easy. Now, if I wanted to stay in this area, it would be a lot easier for me. Find me a little apartment in North Hollywood. But my idea is, if I'm gonna be getting into a permanent place, I ain't gonna be in the valley if I can help it. I'm going back to Hollywood, bro. I ain't trying to deal with the valley heat indefinitely. You know what I'm saying? I've been dealing with it for 2 years, but that's not something I'm signing up for on purpose. Nah, I'm moving back to Hollywood, LA, where the weather is cool, man, all year round. And so that's really my thing. And so when I look up apartments, naturally they try to connect you to the location you're in, and as they do that, they give you all the stuff in this area. And I'm like, man, I don't want to. If I'm gonna spend that much, I'd rather be in the area I want to live in. Like, if I'm gonna spend as much as they talking about around here, I might as well go to Hollywood. And so that's really what it comes down to. I'd much rather live at home, back home in Hollywood, where life is comfortable for me. And so that's where I targeted my search. Wilshire is also very comfortable for me. Living over there was very comfortable for me, but like I said, it's much more difficult to get anywhere over there. It always was difficult to get anywhere over there. That's why I never really found myself going home, so to speak, to Hollywood when I lived in Wilshire, because it wasn't really that accessible. It gets 4 and 5 buses and stuff. It's to me, based on how my lifestyle is right now, it's easier to get from North Hollywood to Hollywood than it was from Wilshire to Hollywood, even though it's closer, because of how many steps it took to get to a train station and such. In Wilshire, it's a much longer walk than this walk from where I used to live to where the nearest train station was. So it's like, you'd be walking for an hour and a half trying to get to a train station. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's really what it comes down to, man. I just found myself unnecessarily stressed trying to meet these deadlines. And it's one of those situations where I was hearing in my head my mother's voice, and she was essentially saying, at the end of the day, you gotta live there. I mean, that's what she was saying. That's what the voice in my head was essentially saying. Sound like my mother. At the end of the day, you gotta live there. Your uncle was going to try to set you up to be in a new spot, and he has urgency to do that because he feels like it's his responsibility to do that, and he wants to have you in a stable space for the uncertainty of the future. But at the end of the day, you gotta be there. You gotta be there. So don't say yes to something that doesn't feel right to you. All the places that I've lived, including this one, there was a certain vibe that came about upon arriving there that let me know I was home and that the Lord had a place for me in that space. And it's been that way everywhere I've gone as a grown-up. After leaving Wilshire, didn't count with my mother's condo. That was a different type of situation. Obviously, that was a home that my family had owned since I was a child, so there was no vibe. But when I got to the Lawrence down there in Lenox, as I told y'all many times, I had that feeling that I was home, and feeling that was the apartment. I knew it was the apartment before they offered it to me, that kind of thing. And when I got over here, that feeling that I got when I walked past, there was an Aztec piece of art down the street from the hotel. I actually made a video that day and recorded all of that, and I accidentally deleted that video, so I don't think I ever actually captured that moment. But it was a strong spiritual vibe that I felt in front of that thing that kind of let me know that I was going to have a nice, lengthy chapter of my life in this place, that I wouldn't be leaving here right away. And I'd imagine that's kind of how that's going to feel when I find whatever's next for me. That checkpoint, feeling like you've reached a new place in your life where you're here for something new. I don't know if I would feel that today or not, but I don't imagine that I'm going to be finding a home without feeling that feeling based on how things have been going in my life. There's going to be something that's going to let me know I'm where I need to be, or I'd imagine there's going to be something that's going to let me know it's time to leave. You know what I mean? Where I'm at. I felt something like that as well when it was time for me to leave a certain job that I had. There's a certain feeling that I felt when I was looking out toward the pool area of this place I used to live, or work, excuse me. You know, essentially what it was the signaling for me. It was time for me to leave that place and never return. And I quit that job right then and there. But like it's always some type of vibe to let me know you've done your part in the place. The Lord don't have nothing else for you to do here. And so that's what I'm looking for as well. It's a signaling that the Lord is ready to move on from wherever I'm at or whatever I'm doing or however it goes, that I'm in a space that He now wants me in. Because that's been very consistent in my life. So yeah, man, this has been pretty good. I've had a good weekend with my uncle. Today has been the only day where it's been just a little stressful. And it's simply because I really am not interested in uprooting from where I'm at right now. I would like to move on, but under circumstances that are not so stressed and so outside of my desires. I'm not really interested in really moving on right now, unless things are changing for the drastic better. I'm not interested in moving to anybody's garage necessarily, or living with anybody, or, you know, renting out some refurbished room that I'm ultimately going to be kicked out of in 12 months because somebody's daughter's going to be returning, only to find myself right back over here. I mean, nah. That's what it is that I'm not up for. And so we'll figure out how this goes, man. If something great comes about today, I will accept it. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm not gonna accept something great. If something feels right, I will definitely sign off on it. But if it don't, there's no urgency, man. There's no urgency for me to move on from what it is that we got going on here. I'll move on at some point, and I look forward to the Lord showing me when that is. But as far as me trying to meet today's deadline, nah, that's not my goal, man. It really ain't. Because at the end of the day, I gotta live there. So if I sign off on something I don't like, then I'm gonna want out of there soon. Or if I find myself in a neighborhood that ain't accessible to different things, suddenly I'm gonna find myself even more unhappy than I would be right now. I'm not unhappy right now, and that's the point. That is the main point. So stability matters, but there's faith that has to be applied to that word too. What is stable? What is really stable? You could think you have certain things lined up in the world, tell you things are stable. All of a sudden, something happens and suddenly you're in the wrong spot. Suddenly, a fire happens in the building. Now you're not stable anymore. Sometimes it's not about what it is as it pertains to the world. It's about what the Lord wants to do for you. And if you're in touch with Him, He'll align you with what it is He wants you to be for, as long as He wants you to be there, and He'll move you on organically. And that's ultimately what I'm up for. That's what I'm up for. You know? I felt like the Lord had brought me into this situation to get me on my toes, to sober me up, to bring me closer to Him, and to help me find more, I guess the word would be positive ways of handling things, positive ways of approaching stress, positive ways of approaching a lot of different adversity or what have you. That's what I thought He put me in this situation for, to sharpen me up, sober me up, give me a little more strength, for which He has definitely done, align me with a bit more adaptability, which He has definitely done, and as He told me, get me closer to Him and expose to me what true love is, or something of that nature. And that's what the energy's been. That's what He's given me. A lot of what it is He promised. I don't know if He's done with me on this side of town. If He is, I'm ready to move on. If that's what He wants to do, I'm ready. But if He's not ready to move me on, I'm fine with that too. You know what I mean? Because I'm comfortable where I'm at. Don't plan on being here forever. Don't plan on being in this situation, maybe even for the rest of the year. But to just like move like that, maybe, depending on what comes up. But not moving to be moving. Not just moving to be moving. On somebody else's concerns. Like, nah, that's not what I want to do at all. Especially since I've been doing so well over here. So that's really what it is, man. A bit frustrated with all of this. I don't want to do any of this. The way I would spend my day if I had a choice, I would be in the room right now, likely listening to my playlist that I made a few days ago, making art for that playlist, or walking down this street headed to Hollywood anyway for my regular routine, one or the other, likely an hour from now, because I probably would not have gotten up as early as I did. That's what I want to do, you know what I mean? And we don't always get the chance to do what we want to do. I respect that. Sometimes you have to do what you have to do, whatever that looks like, and that's what you want to be able to absorb the temperament from which to do. And that's where I need to get stronger. And so that's why I'm putting in the effort I'm doing instead of flaking. That's why I'm out here. That's exactly why I'm doing that. Because otherwise, if this were 2 years ago when I was in my weekend space, I'd have just came up with something and made sure I didn't have to be there. Come up with something. Sabotage it somehow. You know what I mean? But I'm not doing it. I'm not running from any of that. I'm trying to be who I need to be for my uncle. You know what I mean? It pertains to helping him have the best trip to California this round, you know, that you can have. And I've been happy with the effort that I've put in. It wore me out, to be honest with you. Yesterday was a very tired day, but I still put in the effort necessary to have a good day as well. And you know, it's one of those situations where my body told me yesterday, it showed me yesterday it didn't like how I was eating on Monday. That I can say. I enjoyed the meals on Monday, but I can't eat like that. With the dietary issues that I have with my stomach, coupled with how sensitive my body is to eating certain ways, man, yesterday was a drag walking down the street. Just doing simple tasks like walking down the street yesterday was rough. And getting my 100 Blue workout done was rough. But I got it done. I feel a lot better today. And I ate some good meals yesterday and last night and this morning. So, you know, I'm on the road to recovery. I hope to not eat any more fast food today, though. I'm probably going to say no. If he wants to get some type of fast food, I'm cool, but I don't think my body can handle it. So that's really what it is, man. Just dealing with the stress of trying to meet other people's expectations for your life. Not fun, man. Not fun. Even if it's people you love and you know they want the best for you. At the end of the day, man, the idea is to be able to have your own life under control, so you're not on nobody else's watch and nobody else's urgency to move your life in any direction. And unfortunately, with the mental health concerns that I have, I'm not afforded that independence right now. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not afforded that. So even at 40 years old, I'm still moving along with what somebody else would prefer for my life, for better or for worse. And so what's the alternative? Get myself back in the working world, or do something efficient to assure I have a big bag of money, to assure that I'm back in control of my life. And I've avoided that stress too, for good reasons. I didn't do too well last time I tried that process. I wasn't in a good mental space last time I went about that. And it all fell apart and I didn't care. You understand what I'm saying? Like, that's how unhappy I was with my life when I was chasing dollars. So it is what it is, man. I just try to find happiness where I can in my life. I try to set my circumstance up to where I'm dealing with as little stress as possible for as many days as possible. And when days like this come around, or when days like the day I got evicted come around, I just absorb a lot of frustration, deal with it, pray about it, get through it, and then set my life up as comfortable as I can with the circumstances in front of me. That's what I have the temperament, or I've had the temperament to do up until this point. I ain't really had the temperament to deal with the hustle and bustle, cutthroat, get the money every day. I don't care about that. That legitimately makes me significantly unhappy, which is why my life isn't in order. Building credit and all different types of stuff. I know a bunch of that stuff is very necessary and it's very important, but I don't really have the temperament for it. I haven't had the temperament for it in years. And so that's really what I've been trying to get some help for, to be honest with you. And get some help for that, whatever that looks like. I've been searching for it since I've been in this side of town, and I would love to say that I've made great strides in that area, but I don't believe I have, man. And my therapist, Lydia, was saying, well, she thinks that my uncle paying my way enables me to further that space. She thinks that it may be a good idea for him to stop paying my way and just force me out there to go to work. Which, if I had a normal mind, if I'm looking at myself from the outside in, I probably think that's the best way to go. I think enabling people is a bad thing. But being on the inside of this person, I just simply say that I would likely spiral in that situation and find myself in depression because of that space. Not to say that I'm trying to hold anybody hostage. That's not their responsibility to keep me out of depression. And I certainly appreciate everything I've been given. I'm just telling you how I feel like I'd probably react to that type of energy. I don't think I'd do too well into that. And so, you know, it is what it is, man. They've yet to diagnose me with anything or identify anything's wrong, really, at all. And I don't really know what to think of that as it pertains to my getting help and being in Lydia's care over the last, how long it's been, maybe a year and a half or what have you. I don't know what to think of that. There's been no diagnosis that she seems to think that we can rationalize around my mind. I'm not a professional. For all I know, that's exactly how it's supposed to work. I don't know. You know, and so at this point, I say, you know, these are the type of moments where I kind of wish I was a bit more temperamental as it pertains to working the everyday job to job like everybody else does, because then I wouldn't have to really absorb these type of stresses in this way. And you know, independence is a beautiful thing. So I took a lot of pride, I'll say, when I had my own job and my own car and was paying everything off, didn't have nobody paying for nothing. I took a lot of pride in that. I felt good about myself in that. I don't know that I had positive practices during that time, which is why I believe it didn't stay together. You know, and I didn't have positive social practices. I would spend entirely too much time isolated, playing video games, smoking weed, allowing my mind to stay away from people and stay away from things that needed to be done so that my mindset and my social scope was normal. I think that was a part of the problem for me. And you know, I think it all kind of tumbled from there. And at the end of the day, if you don't have anybody in your life to help suggest to you things, you're not leaving the house but to go to work and come home, you're not, no dating life, nothing else, and you're just smoking weed all the time, eventually you're going to find yourself in a space where you're probably going to lose sight of why you're doing what you're doing. You find yourself in a loop. It's a loop that doesn't have much to look forward to, not a whole lot that you're actually doing that makes any real sense to you. That's what I ended up finding myself in, more or less. I just stopped seeing why it was necessary to keep doing all of it. I didn't like it. I wasn't happy. I was spending my time in ways I didn't really want to, forcing myself into spaces that were uncomfortable for me, only to find myself not knowing why I'm doing it anymore. I remember feeling that a great deal of the time when I was struggling with working in my last job. It's like, why am I here? To keep my life going. Yeah, but why am I trying to keep my life going? I ain't even happy in my life. I didn't see no purpose in it. I didn't see anything that I was proud of. I hadn't developed my channel in this regard, speaking up on things like Palestine. I hadn't found it in myself to get closer to God. I didn't particularly find myself really doing much of anything other than keeping myself coddled in the space of comfort and allowing my mind to be coddled by the weed. And so it was like, just in the presence of all of that, you just lose sight of what the hell you're doing, man. Or why you're doing it, rather. And so, yeah, man, I'd imagine I've grown a lot since then, but just the same, I don't feel any more temperament for that than I did when I found myself spiraling. I don't feel any stronger, any closer to wanting to do any of that at all. And I don't find myself to be socially awkward. I'm just not the type of person that's gonna huddle around people for too long, groups of people for too long. Or, I'm good at one-on-ones, but just like the sitting around. I was walking past the patio area yesterday morning. I think it was Saturday morning, doing laundry, and I looked down on the patio below and saw a bunch of people that I see around the property huddled around one another, just having conversation or whatever. And I was just thinking how so abnormal that would be for me. Like I'd never even do anything like that. I don't feel comfortable inserting myself into groups of people to become comfortable like that. And I think that's where the big part of my problem actually is, because when I get into job situations, I kind of carry that same attitude. I'm standoffish naturally. And to a lot of people, especially extroverts and people, so to speak, that energy is inconsistent with the personality trait that I have, which is kind and outgoing when I see people. But I'm here and go. I say hello and I bounce. As to where I don't huddle. I'm not to huddle around groups of people and just get to know and shoot the crap. Like, I'm different in that way. So it becomes a situation where people think my kindness is fake. You know what I mean? Because I don't take to people at all like that. And so it just becomes an awkward discomfort for me in employment situations a lot of times, because I really don't want to deal with people. I really don't, unless I take well to a specific person, then I deal with that person. Like I have my buddy up here that I see at the front desk. I stop and talk to her, but that's about it. Like, I've always been the one-on-one guy. I'm not the group setting guy. I don't find myself enjoying those energies at all. And so it just becomes awkward, it becomes uncomfortable, and it becomes a situation where you just want to like stand alone. You don't want to be really around anybody after a while. You know what I mean? And you find yourself reminded. Someone will do something or show you something that reminds you why you don't come back around. And so you deal with enough of that stuff, it just drives you into complete isolation. And that's what my mind does. It just brings me to a space where I was like, you know what? I don't want to be around none of y'all, man. I don't want to do none of this social stuff. I'm cool, bro. Y'all have y'all fun. I'm rooting for all of y'all from afar, but I'm doing my own thing. I'm too honest for people. I ain't trying to be involved in none of your skullduggery. I got too much depth for a lot of conversations, so a lot of times I'm going to be at odds with people. In terms of their ideologies and different things. People put money before things. People cheating on one another, want me to hold their secrets. You know what I mean? People lying. I'm not interested in none of that stuff, superficial stuff that I be seeing throughout the course of my life, living in the only place I've ever known, which is Los Angeles. The type of person I am was never for the environment I grew up in. I'm not Hollywood, man. I'm from Hollywood, but I'm not of Hollywood. You know what I mean? Attention seeking and all different types of clout chasing and all this type of stuff, trying to keep up with the Joneses, not saying hi to people because they don't have a certain cachet and whatever the situation is, and maybe this person isn't considered cool, so what we do in our group is we posture away from people like that. I give the finger to all of that, man. I'll blow up your whole political system just off of the strength of my realness. So I shouldn't be in social settings because I'm gonna blow y'all stuff up. I ain't gonna care. And so I stay away, knowing I'm like this. As you guys see me on this camera, I don't be around people. And I don't know that this is how it would be if I lived everywhere. This is how I am growing up here, and I could never live nowhere else. So this is the only world I know. But I'm not up for a lot of what my hometown has represented to me socially. I never grew into thinking it was something to stay a part of. I try to stay as far away from this gang culture, what we supposed to do as black people versus all these different things that we do here in California. I don't know if I'm ever going to be wired to be who it is that ultimately people would accept around here. in that way. I don't think I ever will be that person. But it's the only home I've ever known, just the same, you know what I mean? And when you grew up the way that I did, you had the brain that I had, it just kind of turns you off of a lot of things that have to do with being socially normal. I'm turned off by a lot of stuff. I had experiences in my life that made me kind of want to stay away from people, you know what I mean? Not mean to people, kind, but I'm genuine and I leave. I don't stick around. I don't particularly like even some social things we've talked about before. I'm going to clubs and stuff like that. I'm the dude in the corner. I don't want to dance with nobody. I'm not trying to move up on nobody or nothing like that. Only when I'm severely drunk, for which I don't do anymore. I don't drink at all. So that's not, I don't know, man. People like to do things and huddle around other people. I like to hold my camera, talk about real stuff, be as honest as possible, and stay to myself. That's exactly what I'm doing. I think it's what I'm wired to do. I'm very thankful I was raised in a time where we do have the ability to hold a phone up to our hands, document whatever we're thinking, and it'd be socially normal that we do this. Because if this was the 70s and the 80s, there's no outlet like that. You just walking down the street talking to yourself. At least when you hold this camera up to you, suddenly it makes you look as if you're doing something that makes some damn sense to somebody else. So, you know, it is what it is, man. I think I'm wired for what it is I've been. Not necessarily wired for what it is that ultimately makes you successful or makes you acceptable in the place I'm from. Not necessarily. And I learned to live with that. I learned to be comfortable with that. I learned to stay away. And I think it's led to some of the problems that I've had with certain things. And so that's really what my point of view is right there. I just wanted to say all of that. I'm happy that I'm not miserable with life. That's what I want to say to people. There have been a lot of times in my life, in different areas and pockets of my life, where I was miserable. Very, very unhappy. This is not one of them. This era of my life, I think I found the closest thing to happiness that I found in a long time, without doing things that were counterproductive to my life. Because I found happiness doing things I had no business doing several times, but it didn't lead to nothing that I was proud of. This is the first time in my life that I can say I'm doing things that I think God would be proud of, that I also found myself being happy with while doing them. And you ain't too excited about leaving an era like that in your life. If you find an era like that in your life after living unhappy for a long time, you ain't excited about moving on from that, even if it's something that's going to make other people feel better about your life if you move on from it. I think my uncle would feel a lot better about my life if I had an apartment, for which I think most people looking from the outside looking in would feel the same way. Maybe even I would be happy. But I think the circumstances that I've been in have kept me sharp, kept me sober, kept me adapting to new things, kept me in an environment that inspired me to make the content I've made. Long walks down Lancashire have been essential to making content that raises awareness for the things that matter the most to me. And if this wasn't set up exactly the way it was, I would not have accomplished all the things that I was most proud of. And so it's a lot of that I ain't overly excited for moving on from, and I don't even know that my uncle even knows about half of this stuff I'm doing. You know, things that I'm proud of. He doesn't know me well enough to know what it is I got going on. You know, so it's like, it just becomes a situation where you just kind of want to do your own thing, man. And in a perfect world, the Lord just drops a bag of money on my head and just leaves me with it, let me figure out my life from here. That's what would be essential, man, to me, just being able to maintain my life the way that I've been doing it, and then look forward and not have to move on from certain things that I'm not ready for. You know what I mean? The financial stability is what's required in this world, so that people can have the freedom to do what they want to do. I was listening to a conversation about this Shannon Sharp situation, where he I guess settled out with a young lady that he had his controversial situation with, and she quit her OnlyFans. She wrote a story to all her OnlyFans people and said, you know, I'm moving on. Thank you for all that you've done for me, but she don't have to do that no more. She doesn't have, because a bag of money fell at her feet, however she got it, and she don't have to do that no more. And there's a part of me that's very pleased for that, for her. However she got that bag, because I understand that's what it really comes down to for me too. When somebody drop a bag on my lap, I ain't got to do none of this stuff though. I ain't got to worry about none of this no more. Whatever it is I'm worried about, whatever it is I'm trying to cope with or deal with, I ain't got to deal with none of that no more. Because the financial stability is ultimately what makes this world go around, and having that means that you don't have to adhere to anybody else. You don't have to move when somebody else tell you to move, or go to some job you don't want to go to, or sit in a lunchroom with a bunch of people you don't feel comfortable around just so you have to work with them and make them feel comfortable so you can play the political game. All these different things that the working world is represented to me as. Financial stability represents not having to deal with any of that. A big bag represents not having to deal with none of that. And so that's what I'm here to say. She may have got her bag a way that most people don't respect, or however they look at it, but the relief that she feels from not having to do that no more is something I'm very happy for her for. And anybody else who's able to find a way out of those circumstances, or they got to answer to other people or do things they don't want to do just because they need to get a dollar, or this is how you keep the people that you have to work around happy or whatever. For all of you, I hope that you can get liberated from all of that. And for the rich people who are continuing to stay in those spaces to get more and more wealthy, I want you to understand that you only stay in those spaces because you have a desire to be in those spaces. It's your freedom because of the money that you have. Your freedom is in your hand. If you're inspired to keep working and keep doing and keep playing the game, it's because you want to do it. You don't have to. There's a lot of rich people that are in unhappy situations, but their money should be able to get them out of those situations, or make it so that they can settle with the amount they have for the rest of their life and not worry about any of that, if they so choose. They may have to live a little more humbly than they desire to, but it's a lot less humbly than I'm forced to, or the person that we're referring to is forced to in their lives. And if we were to have what they consider humble, we would be happy. We're very happy. And so for all of us, I wish happiness, man. For those who don't want to stop working, I hope you don't never stop working. For those who want to retire early, I hope you get to retire early. For those who want just stability in their life without having to answer to anybody else, I hope you're able to find that stability in your life, so you ain't got to answer to nobody else. Because that freedom is something that I think every human being would love to have. And that's something that ultimately I'm praying for myself, so, and for all of you. So that's pretty much my thought, man. I'm gonna go to Hollywood and see what opportunities may be available for myself. I've prayed a lot of prayers to assure that I'm who I need to be in this situation, that things work out the way that the Lord wants them to in the situation. And my uncle was successful in what he's trying to do for me in this situation. And that, you know, if it's time for me to move on from the era I'm in, that he will make me better from here. That I can carry the good habits that I've carried from this era of my life into the next. You know, and to not allow the enemy to use that for which makes me unhappy, to further ruin my energy and make others unhappy because of it. And so that's what I want to say to y'all, man. Very proud of this era of my life, man. Whether it's over or not, whether we're moving into a new era, I have no doubt the Lord can send me into spaces that are even better than this one. I have no doubt. And as the Lord was trying to express to me last night in meditation, you know, I did a lot of things here that he was proud of too. I've done the best I can in certain situations. You know, I've navigated my own shortcomings very well in this era. So it's not time for me to necessarily find myself in unhappy spaces based on the karma of what it is I've been doing. But it is time for me to now see the benefit and reap the benefits of the blessings that come from doing things the right way and making God happy. And that's That's uncharted territory for myself, if I'm being honest with you. That's essentially what I'm saying to you. I think I've been in that space many times in this life, where I legitimately feel like the Lord is telling me it's time for good things to come because of what I've done, because of the works I've put in, or because of the sacrifices or the improvements or whatever the case may be. I don't believe many times he's told me it's time for good things to happen. So I'm open to that if that's what he's doing. And if not, I'm open to being strong for whatever's next. You know, I don't feel entitled to that either. So that's pretty much what I got to say, man. Bdf 44. I thank y'all for watching.